So it looks like you've been around baseball a while.
Yes, I guess this year would make let's see, 31 years.
Oh my God. You know what? I want to start right away, and because this is all great stuff. So thank you so much for doing the show, man.
Yeah, no problem. It took a while.
That's okay. I really, really appreciate you doing the show. By the way, it's the old Yankee Stadium behind me. Can you see this?
That's the old?
Old Yankee Stadium,
Yeah,
man. Look at those cars and everything.
I know it.
So I figured that I've got your rookie card with the Yankees.
Yes, yes.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another Super Sports Collection show. I am very, very excited because I have been able to, with God's will, I've been able to get some of the great athletes in the last 50 years on this show. And today is no different. I've got one of the top pitchers in, I grew up watching baseball from the 60s, and this guy, Doug Drabek, is one of the top pitchers in all of baseball. He played in the major leagues with the Yankees. I got his rookie card. He played a lot of years with the Pittsburgh Pirates and then went on to Houston and Chicago White Sox and Baltimore Orioles. I want to talk about what it's like to go from play with so many different teams. So he played from 86 to 98. Goodness gracious. How many people get to play pro sports for so many years? And I know why he did, because he was a fantastic pitcher. So fantastic, he won the National Cy Young Award in 1990 and went on to be elected into the Major League Baseball All-Star Game in 94. Now, he made his Major League debut in May of 60. He came in relief for starter Joe Niekro. Not bad. And he would spend the rest of the season with the Yankees. And I've got your rookie card that says you spent that first year with the New York Yankees. I want to ask you all about that. He appeared in 27 games that year, 21 starts, and he went 7-8 with about a 4 earned run average. The following season, they traded you along with Logan Easley and Brian Fisher to the Pittsburgh Pirates. But boy, the Yankees got some great pitchers that contributed a lot. Rick Rhoden, Cecilio Guante, and Pat Clemens. So I want to welcome you to the show. Thank you so much for doing it. I really appreciate it. And it doesn't really get any better for me than this, Doug. So
Well,
thank you for being on the show.
thank you for having me.
So, Doug, tell me about your early years. I like people to get to know the athletes from the earliest years when they first knew that, because everybody wanted to be I wanted to be a shortstop for the Yankees. Everybody wanted to play ball. Tell me what it was like for you when you first realized that it wasn't just a pipe dream for you.
Well, probably I mean, I guess it would have to be for a lot of guys high school, just because you're able to get drafted after your senior year. So, like you said, everybody wants to, that's your goal. And It happened. I got drafted after my senior year, but I elected to go to college instead, and then got drafted after my junior year there.
So,
So, yeah, probably, I guess maybe when my senior year hit in high school, just kind of knowing that it could happen. You see scouts at games and stuff like that. So,
did they come up and talk to you at those games? Were they allowed to?
God, it was so long ago. I want to say they did, like, introduce themselves and stuff like that. I don't remember like any business stuff going on. It was just, hey, I'm so and so from this team and stuff, and we're looking at you and other players too. So you know, I think it starts to settle in a little bit more that there is a possibility.
So when did it get serious for you in your own mind that this can become something for your future, for hopefully for years to come?
Well, I think that senior year being drafted, even though I elected to go to college, I think that's when it sunk in. And so now in college, I know things, rules and all that have changed over the last couple of years, but knowing that, all right, I got to go 3 years and then I have a chance of getting drafted again. And I think probably that freshman year, knowing that, all right, I got a scholarship for baseball. I'm here to go to school. Yes, to go to school too, but to play baseball and maybe get that chance to go to the next level.
Tell me what you had that some of the other guys didn't have, where you said to yourself, I'm striking guys out. What did you have? What was the magic potion for you then? Because it couldn't just be a fastball. It couldn't just be control, although, hey, that's enough at that point. Did you have a secret sauce at all at that point?
Well, I mean, in high school, I threw hard and had this big curveball or two, one that went up and down, one that went side to side, and I went to a smaller school, so I was getting a lot of strikeouts. In college, the pitching, I slowly learned there was more than just trying to throw the ball hard to the plate. So I actually think my velo went down, but I learned more about mechanics and the control part of the game. Um, and then once I got drafted again, the velo, everything picked up a little bit more just because my body got used to what I'd been doing the last 3 years. Thinking was a little different. It was still, though, oh, I got drafted. I want to throw hard and I want to get strikeouts and stuff like that. So it happened my first year. And then my second year in the minors, it changed because now they introduced me a new pitch. And now mechanics and thinking start to become in play more. And I think the one thing, and there were so many guys that had a lot more stuff than I did. I had to use a lot of stuff. But the one thing that drove me was probably the fear of failing and getting beat. I didn't
Mm.
like that. And so it was more of a, I'm gonna beat you. I'm gonna survive. And then, knowing that you can't win them all. But I think that was the one thing. I just didn't want to go out there and embarrass myself.
So one thing that you didn't do for sure that embarrassed you is get a ball to start at 12 and get it down to 6. Is there any way that you can explain that to people who are watching?
Well, without knowing the physics and all that stuff, obviously now being a minor league coach for years and all the technology that's come in the game, you kind of understand it a little bit more. But back then it was, hey, use the four seams, the rotation with the pull of the gravity and the spin gets it to do that. And I mean, it was kind of that simple.
Wow. But when you're throwing a fastball, I mean, you have to throw the curveball literally with the same delivery or else they'll catch on. How were you able
Right.
to do that?
Well, I mean, for some guys, it's just kind of natural. And then for some guys, they do have to kind of alter their arm position to get balls to do different things. And I just think that for me, I think it was just my natural arm slot. So everything, I didn't know squat about mechanics, so I just threw it, and everything seemed to be in the same spot. And uh, and going through the coaching part of it, sometimes you got to step back and say, all right, everybody's different. His arm slot maybe is not the best for certain pitches. And excuse me. And so, you kind of learn from that. But yeah, I just, I call it the simple days. and it was just, that's how it was. And the more you threw, the better feel you got for what you needed to do with each pitch.
I want to talk a lot with you about being a Triple A coach, but first I want to get some of the major league stuff out, if you don't mind. But
Okay.
I'm just as curious and want to know about minor league stuff because I have a buddy of mine. You might even have heard of him, Jorge Guzman. Have you ever heard of Jorge?
I've heard the name, yes.
So he was the guy that the Marlins got when they sent up Giancarlo Stanton and a couple of other guys, and he was throwing 100 miles an hour. He played for a couple of years with the Marlins, and then he signed with the Giants, and they released him in the middle of last year. I know he had elbow surgery and all that kind of stuff, but I'll tell you, minor league baseball, you go through a lot of kids, a lot of it's heartbreaking because I think right now I don't know what he's going to do, and I thought for sure he was going to be a big leaguer. So I will talk to you now about being a minor league coach because you've got to have some magic there to you got to be a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and have a tremendous knowledge of the game that you definitely have. So fill in what I don't know about being, a quality pitching coach for a great organization.
Well, when I started, obviously all the technology that's in it now wasn't part of it. So it was basically going off experience and actually feeding off of guys that you played with. And it was more my eye sees this, that you're doing something wrong or that you're doing something right. And then you get a feel for, like I said, all right, what's his arm doing? Let's try this. Let's try that. I think the first thing is you got to try to build a relationship with the kids where they can trust you, and probably more so they trust you than you trust them, because you're trying to drive a point across, trying to make changes to somebody who's young and has had success doing something one way, and you kind of have to get in their heads that yes, it was great in high school, college, it was all the same, but unless you got those super top elite guys, there usually are changes that need to be made, and it's all not just to get through A ball and double A ball and triple A ball. It's something what we look at as this is what you're going to need to do or sustain to be in the big leagues and stay in the big leagues, not just kind of bounce up and down. And then with all the technology, for the old guys, it was, it was a little bit harder than the younger guys to go, okay, I'm seeing all these dots and lines and graphs and numbers, and all right, what are we doing with this stuff? So you had to kind of dig into that too, because like you said, a lot of times the question of why is brought up. Why do you want me to do this? Why do they want me to do this? Why is this better than, so you have to have something to, fall back on and show them. And sometimes you might just say, you know what, I don't know why. And it's as simple as that. But it's been fun. Like I said, you build these relationships with these kids. And I know, like, for me, being with the Diamondbacks, this will be my 15th year coming up.
Wow.
Going through, and then the last 2 years have been in Triple A. And then I had some of the kids in Double A too, where now all of a sudden you're working with them year after year, and now all of a sudden they get to call up and you're watching them on TV. And, sometimes they do come back down, but it's still I'm not gonna say satisfaction, but it's a thrill to go, man, I've been with this guy for a few years and now I can watch him on TV. And I think that's the big part for coaches.
I've always wondered, being a total outsider, and I've watched my friends who played for the Hammerheads here in South Florida and made their way up towards the Marlins. And I always wondered what it really are the differences between double A and triple A, and what are the obvious differences what a player has to face, like you just said, not only to get into the big leagues but to stay there. Can you start me at double A and lead me up to the majors? Can you do that?
Yeah, double A is kind of where guys should have uh, um, a better idea and a better feel for their bodies, what their bodies are doing, or maybe what they're not doing.
Imagine being able to train your mind with the same precision you train your body. The Awaken Mind headset offers personalized audio programs that can help enhance your concentration, reduce stress, and optimize recovery times. It's like having a personal mental coach available anytime you need to dial in your focus or unwind after an intense session. I believe that this tool can be a valuable addition to your training arsenal, giving you the mental sharpness and relaxation needed for those critical moments when games are won or lost. If you're interested in learning more about how this headset can be integrated into your routine for peak performance, contact me at the number below. I'd like to share more about how this technology can support your journey to the top. Wishing you continued success and looking forward to the possibility of contributing to your legacy as a professional athlete.
And in Triple A, it's still kind of the same, but now those guys, they've been in Double A, they have a better feel for it and stuff. Um, and I think the one thing is for pitchers is consistency to the plate, throwing strikes. That's huge. Every manager, pitching coach, really any level, but once you start moving up, it becomes even more important because uh, your mistakes get exposed a little bit more because the hitters are better. And so, uh, if a guy's not that overpowering guy, but he can get outs, and he throws strikes, you know that if there's going to be base runners, they probably earned it. Uh, that that helps out a lot. Sometimes it's not the answer for them, and they kind of move around. Uh, Everybody likes velo, but I've seen guys with high 90s that just couldn't throw strikes, couldn't be dependable, and they just get bounced around from org to org. So for me, that double A is where they need to start showing consistency, but also the ability to make changes that they need to make. And, hopefully you see results from that. And that's how they're going to, work their way up. In AAA, guys that just get into AAA, it's still kind of the same thing. Now with AAA, even more so than AA, the uh, pitch diagram, pitch sequences come into play more. Why are we throwing this pitch? We want to throw this pitch because we want to throw this pitch next. Obviously, every hitter's different. You get all the info and charts on them, and so in AAA, you got to be able to somewhat have a game plan and kind of be able to follow it as far as all right, this guy we're going to do this and this, that guy we're going to do this and this, know the situation sometimes, uh, and be able to make, I'd say, in-game adjustments more, and especially like I said, them getting used to their body and stuff. If they can do that and they can start feeling things, they can do that change on their own in the middle of innings instead of waiting until coming after the inning. And then, the pitching coach talking to them about, hey, we should have maybe done this instead of that, or you're really flopping all over the place, whatever the case may be. So yeah, I think it's just the, I don't know if I should use intelligence, but the baseball savvy of moving up and being able to grab a hold of all these details that you need to be in the big leagues.
Wow, that sounds super uh, complicated, if I have to say.
Well, I mean, I guess it can be, but I think the more you play, the more you fail at things, and hopefully you learn from them. The more things stick in your head, and it becomes a little bit easier, second nature, a lot of it. So, but even if you're in the big leagues for years, you still have to be able to make adjustments and maybe change things here or there. So I think for me, it's a nonstop or an ongoing process that you got to keep doing it to keep yourself at the top of your game, and you got to keep doing it for as long as you can.
How many pitches did you have, and how many pitches does a young kid have to have that he can control and throw when he needs to be in the majors now?
Well, I had 6 or 7 that a couple of them I taught myself. Well, one pitch I threw in high school, but then stopped throwing it once I got to the big leagues. And then, I don't know, a few years in, I brought it back out. And then I taught myself a cutter, but it was both those pitches I started throwing again because there was a purpose for them. It wasn't just to add more pitches. It was a purpose pitch that I needed for certain type of hitters. And, for relievers, they can get by with 2, but they somewhat have to be an elite 2 to them. And that's usually your guys that throw hard and then they got a sharp breaking ball, where you're looking at, maybe a couple of hitters or an inning, maybe an inning plus. Starters, I would say you would need at least 3, and 2 of them have to be, real good pitches. The other one is probably something you need, and is not bad, but then you work on it to get it better. If you have 4, for a starter, that's good because you can show them different looks throughout the game. And that's where the game planning comes in with it, especially with the more pitches you have. If something's not working, maybe you can go to the other one, and hopefully the other one, if you're able to, go a bunch of innings, will come back to you. So, for starters, 3 or 4; for relievers, 2 or 3.
So what about the change? It seems like when I was younger and I was watching the game, there were a few guys that could really throw a change and really upset the timing of the batters. Is that as much now as it was?
Oh yeah, I would say it's probably even more, just from when I started coaching in 2010 to now. I've seen the change become a pitch that if a guy can at least show, a decent to good one, has become a big pitch. Like you said, if you're able to have, that's one pitch that's sometimes hard to grab the full confidence in, because a lot of times you're thinking about changing speeds instead of just throwing the ball and letting the grip take the speed off. So guys try to maybe do a little bit more than they really need to. And it's funny how throughout these years, it's like every couple of years, there's like a pitch that becomes the pitch this year. the change was that for a few years where we, if a guy didn't have one, we worked with them to come up with one, to have one, and maybe the last year or two, the sweeper now, the big slider that breaks a lot, has become a popular pitch. For a year or two, the cutter was that pitch that people started bringing back out and throwing it. So it seems like, it up and down with, okay, what do we think is a valuable pitch to get our guys to throw? So it's just funny to watch how that stuff works when, all these pitches have actually been around since whenever.
Mike Scott was one guy that to me reinvented himself out in Houston with the cutter. Am I making this up, or is that really what happened?
I think Mike Scott's was more the fork ball or the split, because he started throwing harder, and then he was able to learn that pitch, and it looks like a fastball coming in, because you definitely need the arm speed to throw that pitch for it to work and be effective. And I think that was the pitch for him that really helped him kind of take up another step on the stairs.
And who are some of the guys in the last 10, 20 years, current, whatever it is? I'm curious, just to go back to the change. Who are some of the guys that have mastered the change to keep those players off bounds?
Well, I mean, Trevor Hoffman, he was a closer and he threw the change a ton of the times. I played with Doug Jones, and he was a closer for us in Houston. Excuse me. He kind of had three different changes: slow one, slower one, and the slowest one.
Wow.
I played with some guys who had, like Ed Whitson had a good one. Mark Portugal, who I played with, had a good one. So a lot of guys, I mean, they throughout the years, I guess that, the change doesn't have that that glamour that the high velo fastball does, but it is a very valuable pitch.
Who was a tough out for you? The toughest?
Well, I always say Tony Gwynn, but I don't feel bad because I think he was a tough out for a lot of guys. Darryl Strawberry would hit me good. And when he hit me, I think it's usually a home run. I think Fred McGriff had a high average off of me. Those are the three that usually pop out at me first.
Tell me about Strawberry. What made him? Listen, he's big, long, strong arms. What do you think made him the great that he became?
Well, I think with him, he had, and I kind of look back at like Barry Bonds too, but Strawberry, he had a quick bat. I think that's the one thing that made him so hard. You think you could beat him inside, but he could be short and quick and get to that ball, and he had power. But sometimes you look at his swing, it looks like it's a long swing, but for me, it was just, there weren't a lot of holes there to where you think you could get something in there, because like I said, he was short and quick. Tony Gwynn was like this, short and quick, but he had enough power. If you just said, I'm just going to throw it down the middle, he could hit it out. And I for Darryl, I think that was one of the things where short and quick, and obviously he was strong.
Ooh, he reminded me a lot of McCovey. McCovey would hit these rainbow home runs, and that's what Strawberry's doing at Shea Stadium.
Right. Yeah.
McCovey was a hell of a player. I'm sure you watched him when you were
yes.
growing up.
Yes.
What a team they had out there in San Francisco at the time. So I want to get back to, all the great stuff that, you were really a terrific pitcher. You regularly pitched over 230 innings a year and constantly finished in the top 10 in the national ERA. race. You went 22-5 one year with a 2.76 earned run average in 1990 to win the Cy Young Award. My gosh, that's incredible. The 22 wins that year was a league high. And it was also, this is interesting, 7 more than the year before. Now, I always wonder when I look at some of the cards now and I see a guy went from 24-8 to 15-15. What happens? What happens to a guy? How does it go from here to here in a year? I'm just so curious.
Right. I think everybody's different with that. It could be a case of, hey, I'm just going to stroll out there and do it again. There were a couple of other years that I probably had better numbers than I did in 90, but the wins weren't there, whether it be run support or something like that. I'm not making excuses and throwing it on the offense, but where every year is different. And, and sometimes you want to look at the records and compare them. But if you dive into it and you check the amount of innings pitched, ERA, maybe hits, walks, strikeouts, the other numbers where sometimes they're better, but that's, you get a lot of no decisions or you're on the wrong end of the stick. So I think sometimes that has something to do with it. Sometimes guys want to add stuff and try to make it better, and it doesn't work out that way. So there's probably a lot of different factors on why that happens.
So in 1990 for you, in August, something pretty extraordinary came close, really close to having something really extraordinary happen. Can you tell me about that?
Philly, I think you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one of those nights.
It was all working for you?
Everything was working. I think we scored 11 runs that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's working. You're getting outs, give up. Well, I think I had one walk and then that one hit. But yeah, they're just fly balls, ground balls. Before you know it, you're in the 6th inning, and you don't really see that one number up there. You're just like, okay, things are working. You want to keep it going. But once you're in the 7th and then you get to the 8th inning, you kind of realize of what's going on. And
is that when the guys stopped talking to you?
I didn't realize this, but someone had mentioned afterwards. And then there was a picture taken sitting in the dugout. And I think it was Rick Reed was kind of next to me, but not next to me. And you could just see him, like his head was forward watching the game, but his eyes were looking at me. And I didn't realize anything because I usually went to the far end of the dugout when I pitched. I didn't talk a lot when I pitched. So I just wanted to go to good or bad. I just want to be down there, clear my head. And I wasn't really thinking about it. But obviously 8th inning, things kick in, you go out and don't screw it up now. So going out to the 9th, yeah, you obviously knew what was going on.
2 outs in the 9th, man. 2 outs.
And full count. And I just told myself, I don't want to walk this guy. And
did you throw a fat pitch?
No, it was ball 4. It was actually ball 4. And he just stuck his bat out, and it probably went maybe a foot over Chico Lean's glove because Chico could jump. And it went like a foot over his glove. And, and then luckily, I got the next guy out. But afterwards, you get to thinking, there was a play in the 5th inning where Chico Lean made a diving catch between him and the first baseman. Spread out, dove for it, got it, and threw the guy out. So, there you go. Do things even up? One hit was taken away, and then they get another hit. So,
Tell me about at the end of that game, what was going on in your head?
Uh, I mean, actually, I was glad we won, but it was like just realizing how close it was, kind of. I mean, it wasn't like I was mad or depressed or anything like that. It was just, man, because you don't get those chances too often. I had another one broken up in Pittsburgh in the ninth inning. And then I had a one hitter in St. Louis, but the guy got a single in the sixth. And after the game, kind of funny story. Well, maybe it wasn't at the time, but this was old Busch Stadium with that bouncy turf they had. And I don't know, it might have been a day game. I'm not for sure. But if a ball kind of like a fly ball hit the turf, it bounced up, and they built their teams around that. They beat the ball on turf and had those guys that could run.
Wow.
And so he came up to it. I mean, he got pretty close to kind of where he had to like catch it like that. And he goes, if I'd have known that was the only hit you're going to give up, I'd have dove for it. I'm like, well, it doesn't do us any good now. But he made the right move, because that turns into an easy triple right there. So
Is there such a thing as a team you just didn't like? I don't want to use the word hate, although I've had some athletes say, we hated the Boston Bruins. Was there a team that you really disliked?
I think we always had battles with Philly some, and whether it was, there was nothing like anything happened, but you just didn't, it was probably playing against a guy you didn't like, but if he was on your team, you'd like, that type thing where guys just bugged you. I mean, for me, thinking back, I mean, the Mets kind of was that team. And, you hated them, but it was because they had good players, and they knew it too. So it was always good battles and stuff. With the Yankees, I learned the Yankee Red Sox hatred and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
So, but other than that, that's probably the only ones I can really remember.
Okay. That's interesting. I've lived in South Florida for quite a while now, and I was around with Jimmy Leland when he was doing his magic here with the Marlins. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, and for him to bring a Marlin team together to do what he did. Tell me about Jim.
Well, he was a guy. I guess he got there a year or two before I did in Pittsburgh. His personality and the way he treated the players made you feel at ease or welcome. But then you quickly learn there's another side. So with him, he didn't play favorites, but he let everybody know, no matter who you were, here's the line. And don't cross it, or, we're going to have problems. But the one thing I learned is he really didn't have a doghouse. He could be mad at you, but if he's going to be mad at you, there's probably a good reason why. But you're not in the doghouse on this. You elect to lock the door and stay in there. I know there was one game, it was a spring training game. Actually, we were playing the Red Sox, spring training game. I think I got a hit, and then Bruce Hurst was on the mound, who had a tremendous move to first, and he picked me off. And then, I pitched, I don't know, maybe a couple more innings or something. He comes out, it wasn't a good day. So he comes out, and he's probably just a couple of feet from me, and I just kind of gently tossed the ball to him, not thinking about anything. I just a little bit here, and I jogged off, and then I ran to the clubhouse because I was mad. And I sat there, and I threw my glove in my locker and stuff. And as soon as I turned around, he was right behind me. He followed the whole way, and he aired me out
Whoa.
good.
Whoa.
And I was trying to plead my case with him. Like, no, there was no disrespect. I was mad. It was a bad day. He goes, I understand that, but don't you ever do that to me or any other coach, because it's embarrassing. I'm like, it won't happen again. So the next day, and he would do this all the time. Next day during batting practice, standing out there, and he just, makes his rounds. Hey, how you doing? How's family? This, that. He stands next to me with his arms crossed, kind of looks at me, goes, boy, I got in your ass yesterday, didn't I? And all you can do is laugh. And I'm like, yeah, you did. And I wanna apologize again. There was no intent. He goes, I know exactly, but just hand the ball to me. So I'm like, don't worry, I'm gonna hand it to you from now on. So, but he had like I said, the relationship that he had with the guy, you knew he had your back. That's the one thing. When a team knows that their manager has their back, there's gonna be something extra in there. And he had a good knack of making changes and stuff during the game. He was always, you could just tell he was studying the game as it went along, and he was an inning or two ahead.
And he had the respect of all the players.
Yeah.
And was there anyone there that didn't respect him? You don't have to say names.
Not that I know of, or not that I heard of.
Right.
I know he had a couple other blowouts on guys. Actually, I think it was spring training, but they respected him after they went to different teams and stuff. And it was all respect, because they knew, like I said, if he's going to do that, there's going to be a reason. He's just not going to blow up and show everybody, hey, I'm in charge. Everybody knew he was in charge. And so there was a reason. And you got to put your ego aside and respect that, because as players, sometimes you get nearsighted, or you just see one side of the picture and you don't see the other side, probably because you don't want to see the other side. So,
by the way, you have the best background of any guest I've had so far.
Thank you. Just a bunch of stuff on a shelf.
Tell me a little bit about it. Now, I promise not to keep it too much longer, but you've been great, and I hope you don't mind staying a few minutes longer.
No. I got some of my University of Houston stuff up there, and then some books and just some other stuff I've collected. You probably can't see it. On the other side, I got some balls that I had signed and kept, and then I got the Cy Young up there in the middle, and like I said, just kind of a lot of baseball nicks and knacks. So,
well, and I have, I might have 4 or 5 cards of other people. I got like a couple of dozen of your card, and I've got your rookie card. Can I? Well, of course that's not true. Can I send you the cards? Would you mind signing them? I want to give away some of them to some worthy kids who who deserve it. Would that be okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Super. So just a couple more things. In 1998, that was probably the end of the season was probably a tough time for you. And I always wonder what goes on in a player's head when it's time to go.
I didn't think that. It was the worst season I've had. I lost my sinker completely.
Wow.
I was never overpowering to begin with. And I just didn't, I was 36, had 13 years in, and I didn't have, and I'm not putting this on anybody else. I didn't have the one guy that just said, hey, forget who you were. this is what you got to be now. And I didn't have it in me to sit back and go, well, what do I need to do? What do I just become a completely different pitcher, throw out what I've done for 13 years and just restart? And if I can remember correctly, I had an invite to spring training for somebody. And, it was, my agent told me, they said that, you'd be one of the older guys, which is fine. That didn't bother me at all. I didn't even care about starting at that time. It was still wanted to play baseball. And I'm like, all right, well, let's think about it, see what else, if anybody else has interest. And so I always start working out. Back then, it would always be December 1st. I would start doing stuff, whether it was the running part or the arm exercises, throwing the baseball, and then, building up for spring training. And I was probably into it probably a couple of weeks. And it was like I had to force myself to do it. And I never had that feeling before. And the thing of, all right, I got to do this. All right, let me do more of this because I got to be at this point at this time. My arm is just like the drive wasn't there. So I kind of sat back and talked with my wife, and she was like, you got to do what you feel like you want to do. And so kind of sat back and I'm like, all right, I've got that many years in. The kids were starting school. No. They'd been in school. It was like their last year in Little League. And the travel ball was big. And I just said that. I said, you know what? I don't know what to expect. Usually going into spring or starting to work out, I knew what to expect and what I wanted to do, needed to do. And none of that was really there. And I said, I don't want to go out and have another season like I did. I don't want to, halfway through the season get released. I didn't want to embarrass me, the organization, or anything. So I just said, I think that's enough. And that the thing that helped me was the kids being in Little League, and then certainly you got all the travel ball and stuff. I was able to coach them, so I was involved in baseball. I just wasn't sitting there doing nothing, and I think that really, really helped me out a lot. And so I was always coaching or helping wherever they were playing. And I think maybe it was like 3 years into it, I'm like, man, my arm feels good because I've been throwing BP and stuff. And I think that was the year Dave Steve maybe made his comeback at that time. And I'm like, no, don't be stupid. You're done. You've been out for 3 years. You're 39 now. Just enjoy the kids and stuff. So that's what I did.
And then the last question is the bell rang on the phone, or I think it happened that way when one of the people you knew said, "Hey, we could use a good coach."
Well, no, actually, once the kids were kind of like, well, the one son got drafted in 06, and then the other one was doing independent league ball. So kind of we would go and watch them play wherever they're at for a few years. And then my wife, I guess I was bugging her. She goes, why don't you get a job? I'm like, well, what should I do? She goes, well, try to do what you've been doing for all these years. So I think it was 08, started just calling people that I played with that were working in front offices or coaches stuff. And there wasn't really anything available. So the next year I sent out resumes to every team, went to the winter meetings, and nothing. And then finally a guy called me from Arizona. He had just gotten the minor league, I guess, field director, coordinator job. And I actually had played against him in AA ball. And he said he called me up and he said he's been looking through resumes because there's a spot open. He goes, let me make sure, let me check and see what's exactly going on. So it was probably a week later and he called and said, are you still interested? And I said, well, I still don't have a job, so I guess so. And he said, well, it's going to be in short season A ball and this and that. And I'm like, that's fine. Just want to get back into it and, do something that I know. And I guess I fooled them for 14 years, 15 years now.
14 years. And so what's super interesting about this is you were just like a player. You started at rookie league and then you had to earn your stripes all over again.
I did short season. Then I went to high A ball, then got moved back down to short season and then AA and AAA. So yeah, I've worked my way just like a player.
Promise, last question. What do you think was the magic? I mean, it's rare for someone to be able to coach for so many years in the minor leagues. And do you have any ambitions?
Well, sure. I think a lot of guys would like to be back at the big league level. Whatever shape or form it may be in. I think coaches have the same idea as the players that I want to move up too. I think the biggest thing is if you have fun doing it, you're going to do it. I've had fun. Like I said, I'm the old guy. I think now with all our minor league coaches, I might be the third or even counting big leagues. I think I'm the third oldest.
Wow.
So, I got Duncan and Strom in the big leagues, and then I think it's me. So, for me, I get to hang out with, say, 22 to 29-year-olds, and there's still that gap of coach and player, but it's it's just I always look at it as it kind of rejuvenated me that I'm getting to go out here, do a job that I don't have to dress up. I get to wear a uniform. I can kind of act how I want to that would not go good in an office, and have fun.
Doug, I could not have asked for a better discussion, a better chat. I don't even want to call it an interview because it's not an interview. The information you put out here was, I always want to inform people what it's like with that major leaguer, what it's like inside their heads, what is life really like? And you did a fantastic job of explaining your life and what it was all about for you, and then to be able to be a coach in Triple A and work your way up there. Wow. So it was worth the wait, Doug. You kept me waiting there for a while.
It took a while, yeah.
But I knew your heart was in the right place. So I stayed with it. And thank you, sir. You're welcome. I had a great time. I hope you had a little bit of a good time too.
I did.
Thank you very, very much. And I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. What a great show. And we'll see everybody again soon. Bye-bye, everybody. Imagine being able to train your mind with the same precision you train your body. The Awaken Mind headset offers personalized audio programs that can help enhance your concentration, reduce stress, and optimize recovery times. It's like having a personal mental coach available anytime you need to dial in your focus or unwind after an intense session. I believe that this tool can be a valuable addition to your training arsenal. giving you the mental sharpness and relaxation needed for those critical moments when games are won or lost. If you're interested in learning more about how this headset can be integrated into your routine for peak performance, contact me at the number below. I'd like to share more about how this technology can support your journey to the top. Wishing you continued success and looking forward to the possibility of contributing to your legacy as a professional athlete.